We live in a time where speed is worshipped and stillness is feared, where people rush through life chasing goals they never questioned, identities they never chose, and realities that were never theirs to begin with. But what if I told you that you could shift your entire reality in just 10 seconds a day? And no, I'm not talking about some gimmick. I'm talking about remembrance. You see, most people don't need more information. They need alignment. They need clarity, focus, and connection. Not to the noise of the world, but to the quiet truth within them. And that truth is waiting. Every day, from the moment you open your eyes, your brain starts running patterns, neural loops from the past. You think you're making conscious decisions, but 95% of what you do today, you already did yesterday. And this is where spiritual growth begins. Not with changing the world outside of you, but with changing the reality within. Let's break a myth. Transformation doesn't always require years of struggle. Sometimes it takes a single, sacred moment of presence, repeated consistently. 10 seconds. That's it. 10 seconds where you break the cycle. 10 seconds where you disconnect from fear and plug back into faith. 10 seconds where you visualize not just a better life, but a truer self. This is not about manifestation in the superficial sense. This is not about vision boards, mantras, or scripting just for the sake of desire. This is about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. And that remembering starts with a simple practice. Each day, pause, close your eyes, and for 10 seconds, see yourself. But not the version that's tired, worried, overthinking. No, see the version of you that already made it. The healed you, the wise you, the fearless, vibrant, deeply grounded version of you that walks in divine alignment. The one who's no longer striving, but simply being. See them move. See them speak. See how they respond to challenges, not with panic, but with peace. Not with doubt, but with presence. The secret isn't just in the image. It's in the repetition. Because repetition is what rewires the brain. It's what transforms visualization from fantasy into familiarity. At first, your body might reject it. Your nervous system might say, "That's not me. I've never felt that free, that calm, that whole." But keep going. Every time you return to that vision, you carve a new path in your mind. Every time you feel it as if it were real, your subconscious records it as truth. And when the mind accepts something as truth, the world begins to respond. People feel it in your energy. Opportunities open up. Synchronicities unfold. Not because the universe suddenly noticed you, but because you finally aligned with who you've always been. Modern neuroscience tells us that the brain doesn't distinguish well between real and imagined experiences, especially when emotions are involved. When you repeatedly visualize an outcome with feeling, you activate the same neural pathways as if it were actually happening. This is how elite athletes train without moving. It's how visionary leaders see the future before it arrives. And it's how spiritual pioneers, mystics, and chosen ones create massive shifts in their lives by anchoring into an inner reality so consistently that the outer world has no choice but to follow. Because the spiritual path isn't about escape, it's about embodiment. When you consistently see yourself as healed, whole, and powerful, your behavior begins to follow suit. You start setting boundaries differently. You speak with more conviction. You take inspired action from a place of purpose, not panic. And that rewires your entire life. There's a lie we've all been sold, that only a few people are meant to succeed, to grow, to transcend. That's not true. You don't need to be lucky. You don't need to be born into a spiritual lineage. You don't need anyone's permission. You need to choose yourself, because the chosen one isn't chosen by the universe. The chosen one is the person who chooses to awaken when it's easier to stay asleep, who chooses healing when it's easier to stay hurt, who chooses vision when reality offers nothing but fear. And when you make that choice consistently, even for 10 seconds a day, you become unstoppable, because you're no longer reacting to the old self. You're embodying the true self. Let me tell you a story. A woman I once coached was deeply lost, burned out, uninspired, disconnected from her spiritual practice, from her body, from her vision. She told me, "I wake up every morning and feel like I'm drowning." So I gave her one task. Each morning, before checking her phone, before thinking about work, she would take 10 seconds and see herself as she wanted to be. Just 10 seconds. At first, it felt silly, uncomfortable, even fake. But by the end of the first week, she was smiling again. Not because her life had changed, but because her perception had shifted. She started waking up with possibility, not panic. She began making better decisions. She remembered who she was. 3 months later, her business had doubled. She'd left a toxic relationship, and she said something that stuck with me forever. "I didn't change my life. I changed my identity." This is what this practice gives you: a new identity, one that's aligned with your soul, not your scars. So, what's really holding you back? It's not your past, not your bank account, not your family, not your age, not your trauma. It's your focus. Where attention goes, energy flows. And if you keep giving all your attention to what's not working, what's wrong, what's missing, then that becomes your truth. But if you give just 10 seconds a day to what's possible, to faith, to vision, to the version of you who knows, then the shift begins. A lot of people think faith is about sitting back and hoping. But faith is active. Faith is fierce. Faith is the daily decision to see with your spirit what your eyes can't yet perceive. When you visualize your highest self every day, you're not being naive. You're being prophetic. You're choosing to live from truth, not trauma, from vision, not victimhood, from alignment, not avoidance. And that is real power. You don't need anything fancy. Just a quiet moment, preferably morning, 10 seconds, your breath, and a willingness to see yourself clearly. Picture that version of you. See them in a place that brings you peace. Maybe the ocean, a forest, or a sacred room in your mind. Feel how they walk, breathe, speak. Notice what they're wearing, who they're surrounded by, how they respond to life. Then, hold that feeling, anchor into it, and say internally, "I am remembering who I truly am." That's it. Do this every day. It will compound. And soon, you won't need to close your eyes to see it, because you'll be living it. Always remember, you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the creator of your reality. And the most powerful act of creation? Perception. See differently, and your life will follow. This 10-second practice isn't a trick. It's a spiritual recalibration. It reconnects you with the divine version of yourself, the one that never left, only got buried. And when you live from that place, you move differently. People feel it in your presence. You attract situations that match your new vibration. You stop chasing. You start attracting. Because you're no longer living from the outside in. You're living from the inside out. Now, what would happen if you truly committed to this? Not just once, but daily. Not just when life feels good, but especially when it doesn't. What if you made this a sacred ritual, a covenant with your soul? Because spiritual growth doesn't always come in loud revelations. Sometimes, it comes in the soft whisper of consistency. 10 seconds. Every day. That's all it takes. See your truth. Feel your truth. Live your truth. And the world will have no choice but to respond. If this message resonated with you, don't just leave with inspiration. Take action. Subscribe to Infinite Manifestations. Return to this practice daily. Share this message with someone you love. We are building a sacred space for the awakened, the bold, the remembering ones. You are not alone. You are not becoming. You are remembering. And your time is now. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in my future.